it's Jenny at the literal everyday of Jenny. It's review time. I will be reviewing The Truth About the Quebert Case. Sorry, wrong title. It's The Truth About the Quebert Affair. That's the right title. So yeah, this is a review, probably a short one because I should have done this a long time ago and don't remember as much as I should about this book, which is The Truth About the Quebert Affair by Joël Dicker. Joel is a Swiss author. He wrote this book in French, I think. Because the original title sounds a lot like French. I won't be trying to pronounce that because I don't know French. So yeah, The Truth About the Quebert Affair is a story about Marcus Goldman. He is in he's just turned 30 or is about to turn 30, and he's written a debut novel that became a bestseller, a grand story. Yeah, you know the story. So yeah, and he's got writer's block because he should be writing his second novel, but he's blocked. So he turns to his mentor, Harry Quebert, who is an author as well, and who taught Marcus in college when he studied there to learn more about writing as a profession. So yeah, Marcus turns to Harry Quebert and he goes and visits Harry Quebert for some weeks. And yeah, the writer's block is still on for Marcus, and his publisher is nagging him about, I need the next book now. And Marcus goes back to New York where he lives. And then all hell breaks loose, because Harry Quebert calls Marcus one evening and says, she's dead. And that's when the story gets intense. Harry Quebert wanted to make a garden, or a spot in his garden where he wanted to plant flowers, and he hired a gardening company, and when they started digging they found a skeleton of a girl who disappeared 30 years earlier. And of course Harry Quebert is the prime suspect in this murder case, which means that Marcus feels that he needs to find the truth about this skeleton and this girl who disappeared. So he goes back to the town. He goes back to the town where Harry Quebert lives, but now he's in jail as a suspect in this case. And Marcus starts to investigate what really happened. Who was this girl? How did she end up dead? Who did it? And stuff like that. And it's a very sort of, you get pieces here and there and here and there, and at the end you get the full picture, but still you need to get to the last page to find out the whole story, because At some point you feel like, oh, now I know the story. But then there's a twist. And you then come to a point yet again that, now I know the story. But then there's a twist. And that's sort of how this book works, this novel. It's a very interesting book. It's read-worthy, and I would recommend it if you like crime stories or crime novels. It is a crime story, but the detective in the story is an author, so it's not the typical crime story, you could say. You sort of get to follow, by the way, you sort of get to follow Marcus in his investigation, and these investigations as to what had happened to this girl becomes a book in the end. That is his new book, but that is no news. I gave this book 3 stars on Goodreads because it's an okay book. It was read-worthy, and at some points it was, I want to turn the page, I want to turn the page, turn, read. But at some points it was a bit boring, unfortunately. So it went up and down. It had its peaks and what's it called? Downfalls. I read this one in Swedish, and there were words that I sort of question if they were good translations. So yeah, that took away a bit from the story for me. But if you read it in English, I don't think you'll have that problem. But still, it would be a translation, so there might be other problems with it. Let's see. One thing I actually thought that Joel, the author, could have pulled out of the story, it wasn't necessary to have it in, was Marcus' mother. Marcus Goldman is a Jew, and his mother is also a Jew as well. And for some strange reason, his mother, each time she appears in the story, mostly it's through phone calls to Marcus, she's always nagging him about, why haven't you found a love? Why haven't you married? Why haven't you got, what's it called? Why haven't you produced any kids? You know what I mean. And this nagging it feels like it doesn't give anything to the story in itself. It doesn't make the story go forwards, it only appears to me. I think it's just annoying to read these parts. So for me, these parts where the mother appears in some kind of situation could have been left out. It doesn't make the story better, it rather makes it a bit more boring at those times. Yeah. At the start of this book I got some vibes, or I think Dicker, the author, is sort of wanting to allude a bit to Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, but I'm not sure. I get those vibes, but I don't like them because I hated that book because of other reasons, but I really don't like when there's an older man in love with a teenager or someone who's underaged. So yeah, this book gave me those vibes, but this book is so much better than Lolita, in my opinion. It took me almost 100 pages to get into the story, as much as I feel that I should read this book, I should finish this book. The first 100 pages got me thinking that, do I DNF this, or what do I do? But then it took about 100 pages in. This book in this e-book edition was 493 pages long, so it took about almost a fifth of the book before the story sort of developed into something interesting. So you have to give it time, you have to read a lot of it before something happens and before you get drawn in. So yeah, let's see, the crime solving part in this book was different, which made it interesting, and that is also why it's a read-worthy book, and that was also something that drew me into it after thinking this is a DNF or maybe a 1-star book, to making this the crime part in this story and the solving of the crime made this story to a 3-star book. So yeah, I think that was all I wanted to say about the book. Tell me in the comments down below if you have any, if you've read the book, if you want to read the book, if you want to discuss it, if you don't understand what I'm saying about it, please let me know. I will try and explain somehow. So yeah, I hope you got a tip as to a book to read, and I hope to be seeing you in my next video.